Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another Galactic Interstellar Council. We have a special guest here today, Bjorn Ragnar's son. Say hello.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
Yes, and we have a very interesting topic today. This was actually very interesting. I will read this off. We made notes so we don't go off track here. So it is Niburu, Planet X, Pole Shift, and the Flat Earth Conspiracy. Now, I know this is a extremely detailed set of parameters for this type of show, but we are going to touch on these topics, and our viewers can comment on this how you like. But we're going to touch on these topics and kind of integrate these in as we go along, and we are going to have an after show today too. And that we will make more mention to that as time goes on in the show. So I'm not sure how you two want to start this off, but you want to start this? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. We'll open the circle first. I almost forgot that part. So we open this circle to true benevolence only and true benevolent communications under under the supervision of true benevolent source creator, true benevolent earth mother, and the true benevolent verses across time and space where appropriate is for so in multiple sessions and expressions. Okay, we can actually start this conversation off today. I will make one mention here. This is a I know this is a comprehensive, seemingly separate set of topics, but the whole Planet X and Niburu, Pole Shift, and Flat Earth thing are all seemingly one topic. And the whole misnomer that is going on right now is the fact that some people, and I saw this on Facebook not that long ago, this was a synchronicity that led to this show, where there was somebody out there that was basically saying and stating like, oh, and they're saying this is a matter of fact, like, oh, when there's this massive pole shift, all these people are going to die. This is going to be the safe spots on the planet. And like Edgar Casey once said, when part of North America falls into the ocean and when Atlantis rises, that was a possible timeline that he was seeing. The misnomer is that timeline is still in play, which it is not. Very much like the Guidestone timeline of the culling of the Earth and the 500 million left behind sort of thing. That, in accordance with nature, these are both timelines that have been shed. And the pole shift is actually being slowed down, but is still actually happening. And this actually is going to go in later in history to Earth being more of a tropical Earth. What is actually taking place is there is a terraforming taking place. And within that terraforming, the Earth is being turned into a warming planet. This is where some of the global warming misnomers come in. Is there a real concept? Yes. Is it being politically weaponized? Yes. Is the Niburu conspiracy being spiritually weaponized as far as that goes? Yes. And what Planet X/Niburu is, that would be the Orion homeworld from the Orion Wars, roughly 500,000 to 1 million years ago, and even before in other parts of the galaxy. It is a parallel version of both Earth and Asgard. Essentially, it was like one thing in that universe. And what happened was, when they ripped across space-time, this was a deadened world that eventually all the free worlds of the galaxy essentially destroyed this planet. And the remaining technological forces of the Orions came in and they decimated this solar system, destroying Asgard and damaging Mars. Now, is Asgard still in play in the dimensional sense? Yes, but that is not the conversation for today. What the conversation for today is the looping around of Niburu, which they say is in a far orbit in a dual part of the solar system. Is that affecting the Earth, pulling into another pole shift? Is this Planet X, as is also named, coming back around and causing all of this damage in the solar system and all of these upgrades to all the different planets? In my observation, I have to say no to this, because are a bunch of different celestial bodies causing different pulls on the planet and different planets in this system? Yes. Is the sun also going through a change? Yes. Does this link to the supposed astrological alignment of planets doing different things at different times, like Mercury upgrades and the like? Yes. Is this linked? But that part of the conversation can be in our after show. The pole shift specifically is this going to be this big Kali Yuga of the cataclysmic earthquakes, like they were saying in for 2012 and all that? No. This is just a scare tactic that they were using an astrological alignment to say this is coming around to this massive either set of death or massive upgrades in knowledge. And neither in this is actually true. This is what I wanted to start this conversation off at. Joanna, you can go through this one.
So again,
Yeah.
you have to also understand that if you have the ability to be able to understand the true galactic, let's say, past, that you knew of it, and again, you understood how the Earth and our solar system travels around the galactic central sun, and you understand all these dynamics and changes that will occur depending on where you are, then you actually have a wonderful opportunity to create whatever story you want for wherever agenda you want to try to occur. And you have to understand that these types of, we've said this a lot, that you're dealing with great intelligence. You're not dealing with something stupid. In fact, I saw something on TV, excuse me, not on TV, but on the internet, where somebody pretty famous was talking about certain cabal or whatever, and just said, well, maybe one of the options is they're just stupid. And I listened to it, and I kind of giggled. I'm like, wow, even either this person has been paid or is on the side of it to try and downplay the intelligence of these people. They can't know what they're doing. They're high IQs, but they're stupid. But they'd rather you believe that than still even a bigger truth that is still either unacceptable to people, too mind-blowing for people to grab in. And these kind of conspiracy theories that are being pushed within our thought processes, are will always partly be based on something real. You have to do it that way. And again, where the Earth is, how it's moving around, all of these different things, there's realness to that coming in and changes. They're all talking about the planets changing. Things are changing, but things have always changed. There's a very great truth to that, but there's always been a truth to that. As things circle around and whatever, we live in a very dynamic universe and greater universe, and changes are always happening. The Earth has gone from freezing cold to warm, to plates together to make a land mass, to plates breaking apart to be different land masses. And all of that is continuing on. But, to again spend a mindset. So you have to wonder again, as some of these things are out, what is your actual focus? Do you want this to occur? Yeah. That's my question, because it's the one question that, again, people have to really think of, because you don't understand that you're co-creative beings, and you may be into this fatalistic, it must occur, or it has to occur. Why? Your energies are being used to let that happen, potentially for someone else's agenda.
Yes, and also some people are saying, well, we can mathematically measure this. Yes, I don't doubt that's true, but who is actually purporting that narrative to make it to where you have physical evidence to go by as well?
Right.
So, you got to think along those lines.
So when we have these conversations, I always try to, again, and we'll be doing that today, and for whose benefit is this? Now, it's hard for people to understand that, a meteor could be hurling our way, right? And it's going to destroy us. Can you even conceptually believe that if everybody knew about it and said no, that could create a big enough force that it wouldn't happen? Can you conceptualize these things and or the co-creative skills that you have within yourself to manifest in your life? So it's all of this is the same thing. And again, what is used as a distraction? Because if you could be distracted to be focusing on the subject, and this is all you're focusing on, which really isn't true, really will never play out, but they got you focusing on it. What are you not focusing on that you can make a positive change for your life? So when we ever have conversations like this, I love it. I love it when the Galactics come in. I love it when they give their perspective. but again, part of this is understanding, in my opinion, how humanity is used to keep themselves from spiritually rising and understanding and creating their own, becoming more sovereign, and how all of some of these stories that are out there are all about doing that. Okay, because I do believe we're on a spiritual journey, not religious, but a spiritual journey. And so I always find these conversations fascinating. So Bjorn, as well, this is a gentleman that we've been speaking to for many years, and it's wonderful now that he's agreed to join us in some of these conversations. We've had a lot of these conversations privately, and now it's just fun that we can share in the conversation together and share with the Galactics, and just, you know, have a natural conversation on what we think, you know, this is all about, and how to affect us, and how do we gain control of it.
Well, thanks. I'm happy to join both you, and yeah, it's been, we've had many conversations, and it's interesting that the Galactic that's going to come in today is actually a relation, and we've had many conversations around that. So I'm glad that he's said that he would join us. The pole shift narrative that you're seeing posted everywhere, and especially on YouTube channels, it does seem that it is a bit of a fear-based plan, because there's a lot of doom and gloom communicated around it. But there does seem to be, you know, something a little further, that it brings up some curiosity to ask some questions that I think everybody might be quite interested in. And it makes you think, is it, you know, is it maybe truly possible, but it's not as scary as it could be? Because what if it does? Does it maybe do nothing to us? But maybe it is just a scare tactic. And so there's a lot of curiosity to understand what is really happening there. There does seem to be an actual measurable piece, as you said, Joanna, about the poles that are moving, and there's a few different poles that are actually the way they measure them. There's actually I believe 3 different ways of measuring, you know, the poles, you know, magnetic north compared to you know, others. But the path to truly understanding what is true out of the message here is going to be interesting. I'm quite curious about asking a few questions about that.
Yeah, this is actually a very interesting topic, because I even now feel different waves of interference coming in because of this. And before this show started, folks, my blood pressure was through the roof going to this particular topic. I know we mentioned some flat Earth stuff in there as well, and I just heard our guests say ridiculous. I just heard him do that, so it's like I heard that in the background. So, but this is actually quite interesting, because also you can tell there were pole shifts in the past, because there was this episode of Ancient Aliens I was seeing one time that I thought was quite interesting in regards to this topic, where this was a natural process that they've coupled with the Niburu prophecy. And the real part of this is where you could tell where they had different ancient capital cities that they thought, or different civilizations they thought were actually far older than what was historically being purported. And if you go further back in time, you can align it when the Earth was at a different pole axis. And that was a natural shift. How they've weaponized this, and how they weaponize Edgar Casey's prophecy, is by adding a lot of fear around this. And what they're not saying is timelines shift. Time can be rewritten. And anything that was purportedly going to be slightly more violent is not now. The same with the Georgia Guidestone timeline. Everybody knows about that. I'm not going to rehash that part. But there was a natural shift that the planet's surface kind of moved along over the core, kind of like an orange peel. And that's actually happened over many, many millennia. That is a natural process. People have taken the Niburu and Planet X philosophies in this, and taken it to where, oh, its gravity is going to pull the Earth this way. No, I think not only is the sun changing in the solar system, and some of the energies are changing in the solar system, essentially changing the other planets, but they're linking this to the Niburu prophecy. But it's the energy, and the planet, the Earth, is also shifting, causing some of this as well. People don't want to have that conversation. It's just like how you always hear me say real synchronicity and fake synchronicity. This is actually interlocked, because say you have a real synchronicity pop up, and then you have the 1111 thing pop up on this side. What happens there? People are linking this to that, and it's AI trying to couple its way into the real synchronicity or distract somebody away from something real spirit is trying to tell them. Now, I'm not saying certain extraterrestrials and positive beings and benevolent beings aren't trying to use this, because this is something people recognize. The reason I add that in is because it's the same type of dynamic. You have a natural shift of the planet and nature happening. You also have some alien terraforming taking place, that they're weaponizing the global warming thing. With this, they're trying to couple in, oh, these elders that are wise are coming back 3,600 years from now. They're going to loop back, and they're going to basically save humanity from God knows what. That's essentially, in a nutshell, right there, what has been going on. They're trying to couple this with this, and they have absolutely nothing to do with one another. So this is I'm not dumping on Zachariah Sitchin's work. I'm not dumping on anything. I'm just saying what has taken place, to where somebody is spinning a narrative, and they are coupling that narrative with something that is actually occurring. Yeah.
So the interesting thing when we bring out our guest, which is going to be right now, honestly, in this conversation that Chris is bringing up, I kind of agree, but my curiosity again, as our guest comes in and talks, because it seems to me that in the natural travelings, like I said, of the Earth, of our solar system going around the galactic center sun, we're hitting some pretty interesting energies.
Oh, of course.
Now, a lot of the energies that, according, let's say, to the Mayan long calendar and everything, that these and other things that people brought up, that these energies are about more of, I guess I would put it as, in layman's term, a higher frequency type of energies, where people can grow more in higher energies, meaning the thought renaissance, let's say, and different things that are going on.
And
so
upgrades and thought upgrades and anything.
Right, that we're naturally moving into that kind of experience, because those are the energies that we're running into. My curiosity is that true? Because let's say that is true. Then if you were somebody that was bent on domination and control, you would have to counterbalance that with something. So you would have to try and fight a natural occurrence that's trying to occur by trying to put something on it to dull it down, to confuse people, to get them to be looking at something here, looking left instead of looking right, or whatever. So it seems to be a natural reaction, I would say, if there was we were hitting a pocket of natural growth that would be happening. How do you dull that down? Again, a strategy issue of something that doesn't want to be seen and wants to maintain power. So I just say that to give perspective as well, because I kind of agree with Chris. I say it a little bit differently, but I am curious as well when we have these conversations, that thought process, is that happening because of something natural that humanity is meant to go through? Is something trying to tampen that down? So anyway, if you're ready, and Bjorn, if you're ready, we'll just go on.
All right, let's see here. Okay, the guest today, people will recognize because he's been on the Galactic Interstellar Council and the Galactic Interstellar Council After Show before. This would be King Ragnar, and he has been on before, and he's been actually a wonderful guest before, and he just went damn right. So he just said this time no interferences or interlopers at all. So really, okay, let's see. All right, Ragnar, you're welcome to come in. Benevolent Ragnar, please, and not whatever that interference is off that other direction. Okay. He just said raging buttheads off that way. Okay. All right. All right. All right. All right. So before we get off topic now, because the humor thing can go off on a train. So let's see. Okay. Oh, you're strong. Okay. Okay. Yes, this is a very interesting topic, if I do say so myself, and I have quite often. This and the after show topic, yes, did I assist in putting this all in your heads because this time has come to have this conversation. I will start off this by saying, yes, you all are right on track completely with this subject, though you barely touched on the flat Earth, and this is actually a good thing. Because as you were saying pre-recording, Joanna, to actually trickle that into the entirety of a conversation, this will get it to sink in, maybe, that part of it is maybe, I don't know, a psyops. So this is where I wanted to actually leave that, because you can see how dangerous some of this mind control is when it's woven into the fabric of your daily lives, the fabric of how you live. Hence also the pole shift, Planet X and Nibiru's conspiracy, and those things, along with the flat Earth, have been woven into the perspective and perceptions of mankind. Doing this, along with having actual energetic changes that are going on, real natural things, and coupling it, as he said, to this. This is a very dangerous combination, you see. This is why there was interference with this conversation, and myself and other guests that are here today that he does not see, and people in spirit that he does not see. This is why this needed to take place now. So as far as time goes, I will go into questions.
Oh, thanks, Ragnar, for joining us. Tell us a little more about the North and South Pole shift. Is it truly just a fear tactic to make us think something is going to change in the world, that we should all be concerned about that change? Or is there something that could potentially happen? Or is that a timeline that was going to happen at some point that's not? Maybe you can expand on that.
Yes, actually, it is all three. You see, the timeline shift did occur. Are there misnomers with your Mandela effect too? But I know that's a different conversation. And it's also multiversal physics, which he has said ad nauseum to the point where I wanted to smack him in the head. So he understands the physics, but does not need to verbalize them ad nauseum. So in this particular way, instead of throwing him under the bus, I will say, yes, there is a pole shift going on the north and south ends, but it is very gradual. This was also implemented a long time ago because they noticed the Earth would have propensities to go into violent shifts on its own, but at the same time, they did not want civilization to fall. So what some of the Agarthan tribes did is they put what you would say a clamp or a harness in place to slowly move this. There's also some of your bad factions out there are attempting to promote a bad global warming agenda that then couples into the pole shift. Yes, will Earth eventually be tropical? Yes. Will there be a violent pole shift? No, because it has actually been, let's just say, trained over a period of time, or the Earth has to a certain extent, to where that won't happen. Now, in situations past, where there was a different North and South Pole, was this part of that natural process? Yes, but they noticed every now and again the Earth would kind of shake its way to the next stage or the next notch or the turn of the dial. And they did not want this because it wasn't as violent as what's being purported now, but it was more of an irritation. So what they did was they made it so that that particular skip in the record or that jump in the ladder rung did not take place. This also leads me to things like the global warming and the narrative and all the political nonsense. Ignore 9/10 of what you're hearing, because it is fable. Now, there is a global warming that does work if you want to rebuild a planet's atmosphere in a terraforming sense. Yes. But will the temperature rise to a certain extent where it's going to cook everyone on the planet, like some of your politicians say? No. In this also, the planetary pole shift, where they'll say there's a planet X doing this, which is not occurring, I will say. This was part of a narrative that was added in via not just time travel capabilities, but added in a long time ago by the Orions to make sure someone would find that narrative, so that not only would you regard them as the epitome of wisdom, elders returning, but at the same time, you would see also the ultimate loosable danger heading your way, as what he was saying. As far as the central sun goes, are you getting at certain times of year more downloads and more energy capabilities and more insight during, like, the Samhain time of the year, or what they call the harvest, which it's ironically named, by the way. This is why the Orions use that as that Lucian junction sometimes. Is this true, though, with more of those energies coming in at that time because you're closer to the central sun? This happens to be true. Are there upgrades coming through your sun and certain codes? Yes and no. Is this also causing some of the energetic shifts on the planet? Yes and no. There are beliefs being put in people's minds that not only is this going to be a cataclysm, but there's going to be more of an upgrade or an ascension going along with a pole shift. Wrong. Complete crap. Because people are more sovereign. They're not actually ascending. They're coming more into their own. There is a big difference there. One is related to the Lucian or the energy harvest, and one is related to humans becoming more free and sovereign. Before I go off on a tangent, which his mind is actually locked into, I will go into other questions if you like.
Well, the energies, as you talk about, seem to be that this narrative is pushed for the fear. And is it for a fear of an agenda of the climate change, or to add to some of these things, or is it based on the Lucian, as you say, to gather that energy?
It's actually both in this respect, because the fears surrounding a cataclysm, people co-create this, then in fact they're creating the Lucian surrounding. You've heard the phrase, when more than one gather in my name, sort of thing, not to quote religion in this respect. I know that's ironic coming from myself, but in this, when people gather, they can either bring peace or bring conflict. And this is also like what's going on with your current political theater, where people are focusing on this. That is actually co-creating the things that this playette or theater puppets is trying to get people to create and focus upon, and distract them from what is going on around them. So yes, to answer your question, it's all of the above.
Well, I know the New Age movement has really latched on to some of these narratives, and they've talked about the North and South Pole shift as part of a cleaning of chakras, that the Earth is alive and needs to do a cleansing, which is, of course, causing cataclysmic events of volcanoes and more storms. Is that all part of a narrative, or is any of those things true?
There is truth to this, where the Earth can cleanse herself, like shaking off of the fleas. As someone you encountered on your vacation said, it's either a warming or a freeze. There is a certain aspect to this that is absolutely true. Where yes, is it like the planet like having a fever or having a cold? Yes. Can these things occur? Yes. Are they going to occur violently and cataclysmically? Absolutely not. It is more or less the audit and purging of the Earth, or is a continuous rolling process. It is not something that is going, oh, this is going to happen. It's already occurring. Even in places, you see the evidence of this every day. Say if there's a lot of pollutants in a river. And this happened in times past, where then the river caught on fire, burned out all the contaminants, now the water is clear. All of these things are continuously occurring. It is not like it's going to happen. It already is in your midst. The audit is continuous. The cleansing is continuous. That the organism purging contaminants is continuous. And does the Earth see humans as a contaminant? No. This is also a misnomer. Does not see humans as a virus. even though humans are colonists by all intents and purposes, do certain elementals see humans as an irritant, like some of your myrrh and some of those, some of these, the fae and such? Do they get irritated at people dropping pollutants and garbage? Yes, and by all rights, that should be so. Do they get anal about it? Yes, but in this particular instance, it is actually justifiably so. But as far as the planet going into the violent pole shift to flip and then purge all the Earth's chakras, not exactly. This is the energy points are shifting because the poles are shifting slowly. Each one of these chakra points or energy points, as you say, are going to realign, and even one of them will become the new pole, like what happened in extreme ancient times. The Earth will lock into a different little peg, as it were. Like, say if you're putting like a device together, a machine together, and you slide a leg on it, it has a peg that pops out, so to speak, on something that you're putting together. Like a walker or a cane or something like that, and that leg pops out and that little notch pops out. This is exactly what's going on with the pole shift. The Earth is slowly moving to another notch. It does not necessarily mean that this is going to happen in a flip, violent way and then kill all the humans that are somehow a virus. No, the Earth is actually formed with some people a balance and a synergy with certain groups of people. I say certain groups because there's some that continuously unbalance the Earth by utilizing weather control, such as your cabal. That is a unbalancing that the Earth is trying to stop them from doing by also sometimes forming some of these more violent storms to counterbalance some of the weather control that is out there. That is the true unbalance that is messing with the Earth, is some of the technological that your cabal and corporations are using. Even that will not result in this gargantuan pole shift and flipping of the Earth. That is something that is an extreme misnomer.
So in your notches, in your conversation of it going to different notches, because I think this is actually a big mind-warping idea, because I think what's been put into people's minds is that it is either magnetic North Pole or magnetic South Pole. It's these two are the only options. But as we've known, what's been happening is that magnetic North and South has been shifting a little and shifting a little. So in a sense, the new North Pole could actually lock into being straight over Juneau, Alaska. If, and that could stay there for a while. Or God forbid, it went too slowly, then went to another notch, and then Spain is magnetic North. So I think, again, people kind of have to open themselves up again, to kind of in that deny the known, because people's thought process is it's either here or here. And so in their mind, if it flips, obviously the biggest sloshing that has ever occurred, right? We're all going to drown and die, because that has been the only options that's been put into people's mind. Do you agree?
Yes, it is the only options that are put in people's minds a long time ago to keep that particular narrative going, to make sure people are acceptant and capitulant with the many people being called and died, such as with your Guidestone timeline. Oh, this is just a natural process of the Earth. Wrong. The natural process of the Earth is that the magnetic field and the energy field is always in flux. The nexus point of the Earth is always in flux. The rebuilding of the Bifrost is always in flux. Is Earth that centrus of the new Bifrost and some of the nexus? Yes, but is it the center of creation, as what dear Elena and Vessa said in your previous encounter? No, it is not the center of creation. That is the wrong form of egotism and narcissism at its finest. The pole shift, yes, as I said, different notches. Say if the true north went to Juneau, Alaska, and the other was down here. There are also these other energetic points, vertices, or as you say, vortexes, portals, and other openings that would shift, since the Earth is also in dimensional flux and multiversal flux as well. I'm not going to go into Rain Man narrative, as he likes to do, for the multiverse, but I'm going to state, though, the important portion of this conversation is those dimensional doorways would shift and change, very much like your alignment or the conjunction of the spheres in your Witcher narrative, where when all the creatures came through and all the portals realigned, and then they closed again. This was an actual historical event they were depicting within the Witcher narrative that he said before, but I don't think he knows the complete ramifications as far as some of these different notches. Think of a notch. If it switches to a different notch, that gateway closes, another one opens, and it's more like this ripple effect. You have, of course, true north and true south, but you have a lot of these tree branches and also roots that are all over the place. This is very interesting. This also interweaves into Asgard, Midgard, and Agartha. Asgard being around you now, even after the other original destruction, which was also a misnomer. It's still very alive and well with Odin there as well. And the different planes of existence, like different nature planes, earth, air, fire, water, all of these different planes that he's seen, also the holographic ones that your archontic forces try to mimic these other planes of existence, which was shown as planes of oblivion in your Elder Scrolls, all interwoven, all purging, all auditing, and all in continuous flux and moving. This is essentially the embodiment of what the pole shift and some of the energetic changes actually embody.
And the difference between Asgard and Middle Earth or Earth or is that it's more of a frequency shift. If Asgard is around the Earth, it is on a different frequency. And that is the difference, as you say. Yes,
you have the different pockets, is what was spoken about on these shows, where I live in Greenland. Then you have some of the different frequencies that are also out there. Asgard is both. It is a different frequency and its own encompassing realm that, by the by, you can access from Hyperborea, which is a pocket, and then here to Midgard, and also Agartha being, you would say, lower Earth. You can also access both from there as well. So yes, it is essentially a whole shifting of frequencies.
Do you have to travel with the Bifrost to be able to connect to the different realms and the different locations?
No, there are portals like through Hyperborea that you can get to Asgard, which then dials your frequency up. The Bifrost is for different planets. Now, can it dial into a planet that's in a different frequency or dimension? Yes. That's mainly for other planets that follows the Earth nexus point. Joanna, I know you wanted to make a point on this as well.
Well, no, I actually just wanted to go back to something you brought up when you were speaking a moment ago. If you're done, if it's okay, Bjorn, I wanted to go back to something that he said earlier. So sure. What you were actually talking about, which this is what I find really, really interesting. So you've got the Earth trying to do, again, as people are talking about the pole shift, what does that really mean? What's the false story? What's really going on? However, layering on top of that and layering on top of that again, you got a couple other agendas. You have the agenda of the global warming, but you also, and again, I don't know any other way to say this. I try to think of non-threatening ways, but I do believe there's an active culling going on. So you also have, again, in trying to get into people's hearts and minds just to accept certain things, right, as you were talking about, you've got this whole, which I am curious, isn't man-made. Is this cold that is going on right now that is now penetrating, even as far as where we are, where we're having a colder than normal time here in Arizona. And again, you got New York that was dumped upon. You've got the coldness that is going to be hitting Europe that everyone's talking about, obviously trying to prepare people for the amount of deaths that are going to occur because somehow there's no more fuel anymore and there's no more anything. So they've layered so many different subject matter there's so many different agendas because there's more than one agenda for them going on. So to me, I am curious, is this a man-made cold for other parts of the agenda? And then I don't even know how they're tying in global warming with the cold snap. To me, that feels like a benevolence to show how silly the conversation is. But I wanted your perspective on these other parts, that because you brought that up about how man is interfering with weather as well.
Yes, the cold, you are right, it's part of the weather control agenda, but also some of it is being allowed to show the public how ridiculous these different swings are, and showing that this major disastrous pole shift thing is indeed a narrative. Granted, there are darker aliens such as dark elves and such that are involved in some of this terraforming, which they will not and should not be. This is something that is actually being handled, as I'm speaking, by Odin and other forces as well, as he did in the past as well. But in this, well, not quite the same, but in this, much to his chagrin, but in this particular concept, though, yes, there is a lot of weather control going on right now to cool this area, just exactly like what you saw in the beginning of 2021, whereas your state of Texas was blanketed in a blizzard. They were using it to further a political agenda of back and forth, but were cabal families hurling stuff at each other. The same thing with Hurricane Ian. Yes, this is why in your area it got to almost -10 because of this. Now, on the flip side of this, how can this be a good thing to show people weather control and to show people the false narrative of the pole shift? And the narratives, I should say, there's plural there. It basically shows the ridiculousness of the pendulum swing, when the Earth would not necessarily completely operate that way. Now, if you shut the weather control off right now, would the Earth try to rebalance things and have a bunch of energy that's been pent up and have to have some violent storms here and there for a little while? Yes, unfortunately. So can this be dialed down a little bit technologically? Also, yes. But with the cabal doing their weather control, and each time that they want to use it just for political gain, political narrative, or just for the hell of it or fun, because sometimes they do this too because they're assholes. So when they do this, not only do people die as a result, saying, oh, this is an earth culling, people can say earth culling, even though there is some going on. What they can also state is that, oh, this is part of global warming. The earth is mad that we have, petroleum usage in vehicles and all this, so now we have to flip to electric. You see the whole narrative there. Even though going without carbon footprint can be a good thing, is the Earth drastically being affected? No, it is being more affected by the weather control and also mass co-creation towards fear and chaos, like what happened in year 2020. These are the things that could affect nature around as well, even though there are pollutants that also affect. The Earth is also, as I've said, in a continuous state of purge, and also arm wrestling with this weather control.
Well, thank you. So I hope that, again, we're trying to cover so many beginnings of subjects. So I'm hoping that gives people enough to think around the whole Earth shift and the weather control and that whole conversation. But Bjorn was bringing up something now that I'd like to continue to, but a different thought came into my mind, because although you're like, well, what does the Bifrost have to do with this conversation? I believe that his thought process and the things that he's thinking about is actually related back to the past with Niburu, with the invasion timeline, with the destructions that occur. I don't feel it's off topic. No. We're trying to give perspective, because from our understanding, again, we've said this before to people about people romanticizing certain periods of time and maybe thinking, was I a part of it there? I want to be who I was there to bring something forward. But people do not understand that when you are trying to bring energies in from a certain period versus just equality, like I could have been a great orator then. I'm only going to bring in that orator for a second and then put it back where it belongs. Right, that information, but to bring back the spirit of the whole time, I don't think people realized how that isn't for our highest good, that was a destructive time. So I am curious now to change the subject now specifically to the Niburu, to the concept of Asgard, to the concept of the Bifrost. And again, if you can give some sort of, because a lot of people, again, here we have, look who we have on the screen that's based off a television show where people are thinking about all of this stuff. So I'm curious about your perspective on the dynamics of all of that.
Yes, to correct you though, there were a lot of good things that happened in those times. There was, yes, there was more freedoms in some areas than people have now. Things that of wonder that have been forgotten to history because the Orions wanted people to not be in a position of power. Certain philosophies, certain unity has been relatively lost. So not everything of those times was of a horror and of a romanticism. Egypt was is a romanticism that has been happening quite often. Also, in somewhere in my neck of the woods, the Viking culture has some of it been romanticized. Yes, but there's some truths there. Was there a lot of violence and death? Yes, but there were also good camaraderie, unity, and family. So you have to also see the yin and the yang in those time frames. Now, if you go even further back, into my time around the times of my death, some of the kingdoms that were around then. Were they all warring with each other? Yes. Was it in times a horrible time frame because there was more disease, lack of plumbing, lack of hygiene, all this other stuff? Yes, if you focus totally on that. But if you go into other areas where there were, say the Roman Empire, was that being focused on too much? Saying, oh, they had great libraries, they had great wisdom and knowledge. There's a misnomer there because of the fact, yes, did they have things technologically that you guys don't even conceive of now in some areas? Yes, and were some of these alien cultures, such as Atlantis, and some of the cultures, that we've descended from ourselves, Bjorn and myself, did they have a lot of great things on Atlantis? Yes, but then it fell into trickery and ill energies, very much like of Asgard. This happened as well. Are there good things that happen? Yes. Are there bad things that happen? Most certainly, yes, too. So it's important not to romanticize, know the truth, but know that there are things that you can grab that from the past that are good, such as your Tartarian history, for instance, that it was so much opposing the bad guys, they had to wipe it from history. And there are other cultures that have been wiped from history that had wonderful things that could have upgraded the planet. On the flip side, do not romanticize a specific period because that will be your undoing by basically going with the fairy tale versus the reality. The reality is much more rich in its yin and yang, and the truth is always better than fiction. Is it good that people create these stories and co-create that energy? Yes, but also it's important that you have the truth as well.
Thanks for that explanation. I think we could go into some of the Niburu and some of the deep conversations that we could have about that in the after show. But I do have that I think viewers might be interested in is, as we're talking about the North and South Pole, there's often only a small portion of humanity that has ever visited those areas. And obviously Antarctica, where the South Pole is, there's a treaty around with many countries that have created this treaty, and you can travel there, but on a very controlled basis. Is this because there's many secrets to the poles that they don't want anyone in humanity to see?
Oh, absolutely. So aside from your Nazi space port that is there from around the times of your Operation High Jump, there is ancient technologies that have been there. You see, Antarctica is part of Atlantis, and the pyramid that is there is a major power point. Again, a shift to another one of those notches, and it has reawakened in some of these newer energies. So it has been turned on again. And this is something that people again associate with the Niburu prophecies where, oh, it's connecting to the ancient ancestry. Wrong. It is aligning to another one of these notches that happens to be more compatible with its energy matrices because it was more aligned to another one a long time ago, even much further back than Atlantis, to something that it was gaining power from. Now, did the Orions try to exploit this by saying all pyramids were aligned with Orion? They were actually trying to loosh energies when bastardize and retrofit some of that old technology that was not theirs. They did not create this. It was Antiquan, some Pleiadian, Elven, and ancient Mayan technologies, and Antiquan, which are the dog people technologies, and Lyran as well. and this was something that was stolen in time and aligned to Orion. But in this instance, with this pyramid realigning, and the one in Alaska too, and other ones, when this shift is taking place, it is realigning them to something again that is more compatible and is now activating some of these old technologies. This is why the military up in Alaska was spooked when the pyramid turned on by itself, because it is such a massive power source. It started to actually empower parts of Canada, to where it was starting to hook them up to free energy, and they did not want this. You see, they did not want people to understand this. They've tried to shut it off ever since, and they have not been able to do so. And other people have noticed some of these things. It's even causing some more of your aurora borealis type of phenomenon, even though that is the magnetic field around the Earth hitting certain parts of the poles. These power sources are also adding to this and causing more aurora borealises. And other stone circles and such are causing some of this as well. And they want people to actually see that in a different light, seeing it as just a magnetic shift versus that of some of the ancient technologies that are switching on. But to be more on topic there, yes, your Antarctica, yes, there are many treaties that are signed there. There are heads of other countries that are signed there. So if anybody just shows up there, they're either going to be shot and killed or arrested and thrown in some gulag somewhere. That's essentially what is going on with Antarctica, along with some of the ancient technology that has been discovered there.
Oh, interesting. And Admiral Byrd, back in, I think it was the late 1920s, traveled to the North Pole, and he wrote in his diary that he that's where he found an entrance, a hole too. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so where he entered through that opening, and did he meet with some beings in the inner Earth? Yes, he did. Were some of them spouting a slight bit of narrative at the time? Maybe, because what was happening was they were trying to say, talk about nuclear power, which, yes, that needs to go. It intersects different dimensions and expressional layers and dimensional multiversal layers, which affect other beings within them. What they were also concerned was, what they were trying to say was also about the pole shift to him. He didn't report this part, and also about different energetic shifts. Some of them are trying to participate in some of this because some of these different tribes don't care for surface humans. Most, in some instances, do in varying degrees, and some do not. That specific being that called himself the Master to Admiral Byrd was not completely being genuine to him. It was only trying to spout a bit of a narrative that associated with just one thing that they specifically wanted done, even though it's rightfully so with nuclear power. The being also was trying to purport some of the more violent pole shifts so that they could also enact some things that they wanted to do as well that aligned with more cabal interests. Some of these beings are on some of those types of agendas, not many, but some of them were also aligned with some Orion agendas. Again, some of them it varies. But when Admiral Byrd entered that area, he did get to see the inner Earth. He did get to see what he said he saw. But there was a lot that he did not mention because it had to do with what he felt was a particular agenda. Also, it had to do with some culling agendas as well. So it wasn't as kind as the reports say, and as mystical as the reports say, but did it have to do with some Agarthan tribes? That part is factual.
Well, you see in the early pictures of NASA that they will show that there looks to be a little hole or it's kind of an indent where you could probably travel down into inner Earth. But those have all disappeared, and any new pictures, it seems to be, mapped over. Is this just part of the agenda to hide truths, or is this something, if you were to get to that area, because many people have traveled to the North Pole and show that here's the stake, this is where the magnetic North Pole, or maybe it's the true north, would somebody be able to travel themselves again today and be able to see that, or is it hidden and cloaked?
There's hidden and cloaked areas. They're trying to take it off of your Google Earth as well, but they did a sloppy job of hiding it. This also made it so people were slightly more curious to go look. They were hoping to cause some controversy behind it, but it is, for the most part, closed off, that you wouldn't be able to get to it. There are other openings that will lead to this main junction that are offshoots, like tree roots or tree branches, that will lead to this. Granted, these lead through reptilian territories in the inner Earth, but can these two connect to each other and you can go to North Pole, South Pole? Yes, but for the most part, they have been closed off.
Oh, very interesting. Very interesting.
So I'm curious about Admiral Byrd because of what you just said. So you said there's a lot of things that Admiral Byrd did not speak of. My curiosity is, did he, because he had diaries, did he literally choose certain subject matter that he didn't talk about, didn't write about, didn't do anything about? Or did he document it somewhere that maybe hasn't made it out to the public? I'm just curious.
It is actually both. There's some things he did not write down, and there's some things that he did that they have not allowed out yet, because they did order him not to speak about it, but he did eventually do so. He did write a set of memoirs that, like Tesla's material, they confiscated. So it's actually both some things he did not mention in the books and some things he did. Whether that'll come out is a matter of co-creation at this point.
And it does seem like he did travel to Antarctica, and the story goes that was Operation High Jump, where he discovered the Nazi base and had somewhat of a battle.
Oh, yes, most certainly that happened. They downplay it a little bit, like on your Ancient Aliens programs and your histories, greatest mysteries type programs and stuff like that. They downplay it. It was actually quite violent, and it was actually quite devastating for the American Navy at that particular time. The Nazis wanted to make a heavy statement, very much like when they flew the ships over the Capitol. They wanted to make a statement basically saying that their wiener was bigger than yours, essentially. And they still go by that axiom, even the ones that are in space, which in fact it is not, but I am just stating that's how they feel. This is exactly what they did to Admiral Byrd. They wanted him left alone because they essentially wanted to shame him and other people that believed in more the American cause. There are some people that don't know about these things that they feel would have to be put in their place if they would ever confront that Nazi agenda. That's exactly what happened in High Jump.
Yeah, it does seem like there's also a lot of, as you said, cover-ups around Google Earth where they definitely hide some of the things that show up on the maps or on the satellite views. Is there any relationship with ley lines to the poles?
Yes. These are those particular notch points that I was referring to. Can these change? Absolutely so. You have those intersection points. Can that fluctuation change? And is some of it the technological anchor that I was talking about? Yes, but very little. These particular points, yes, are there archontic energy collectors, as he likes to point out, in some of these areas in different frequencies that are attempting to basically rape these notch points. Yes, and loosh people when they cross over certain seals and ancient sites, as you've seen with the foot spikes and draining of energy. Yes, this is what the Earth is also attempting to shake off. That's the technological part. There's not as many as there used to be. Most in some areas are covered up and away from the stars and sunlight and moonlight. It is actually mainly moonlight that empowers them, not sunlight. He thought it was just the sky. It was mainly the exposure to the moon, which is the other end of that binary arc, and Saturn and all the rest. But with this, these different ley line points can shift and change. Now, when they were saying on your Ancient Aliens program, whereas some towns were labeled a certain way along a certain ley line, yes, some of those can be the same, where they were trying to mark or map out a particular set of lines or something, so they put towns along it. Very much like if you find a gold vein or an oil reserve. What do when they're mining these things? They build towns or boom towns next to them. When they were seeing energy, what did they do with those towns that were aligned? Those essentially were like boomtown sites going along an energy line or an energy flow, either for the purpose of harvesting, like how some spaceships harvest energy, vortexes and time fractures, or it was to basically get the energy flow for a spiritual purpose. This can change seemingly on a dime, but as those notches shift, those ley line intersections can also shift to empower a different set of coordinates and intersections. So hopefully this answered the question.
Yeah, definitely did. Thanks. Well, it makes me think about how when we're talking about ley lines and ultimately a map view of how we see it and we've been given around the grid, it makes me think about there's quite a few maps out there that have been given that are focused around a flat Earth, which is actually just an azimuth view of the globe. But there's a lot of agencies that have it, the UN, the World Health Organization, where they will have pictures in their logo of that view. And I think that gives a lot of weight to the flat earthers that, hey, there's some knowledge that the insiders have of what's truly there. And the North Pole is actually really the center of the flat Earth. And then there's a dome over top of it. Maybe you can talk about how that relates to that flat Earth theory.
Yes, this is, I chuckle a little at this because this is one of the biggest psyopses that your planet has ever seen, besides elements of religion, as well as what's going on in your media and your 5G mind control at the moment. This technological and AI mind control, this is up there with that, if not one of the worst that is out there currently. Yes, they wanted to perpetuate that narrative like Earth is not only flat, they wanted to perpetuate it like it was a 3D matrix, like in your Matrix movies. They wanted to make people believe that it was not only flat, it was a platform, but also a matrix platform to make sure people co-created the transhumanistic agenda as well. So they always say it's a holographic like disc, kind of like a computer. They've integrated the flat Earth into the whole computer nonsensical crap. This is another narrative that fits into not only your pole shift, but fits into the flat Earth narrative, because they are trying to, like you see that creepy truck drive around your area where it says NASA is a lie and it said NASA is covering up the flat Earth thing. And this is yes, are they covering up a lot, and are they the front to the secret space program? Yes, but in this, they're wanting you to believe, again, they are linking something majorly false with something, a real concept that you are being lied to, you see. They're linking together, like I said about he said about the 1111 thing, or about linking different aspects of the pole shift with Nibiru's return. It's the same tactic. It's they're trying to link it into the as above, so below philosophy, so that people co-create it and believe it. They took the philosophy of the Earth being flat in the ancient past. This is when they tried the Orions tried it the first time. Is when they tried to get people to believe the Earth was flat. They wanted to maintain that, but then you had other people integrating in the fact that it was round, which it is. Then they decided later on, we're going to try this again, but mix it in with the technological transhumanistic and matrix philosophy. This is what is currently going on with this. This is why governments of the world are using this map. They're also trying to link it into the Tartarian Empire's history and Atlantean history and Lemurian narratives as well. And also, by the by, into the Asgardian and Hyperborean. Wrong. That is 100% wrong. They are trying to manipulate people with that particular psyops. This is exactly where it currently stands.
It sounds like a lot of people are in on it, on the flat Earth narrative to deceive us, and it seems like it's also connected to what they want us to believe around the Bible, as they say that the dome actually is the firmament, and it's all discussed in the Bible.
Mm-hmm. You are correct. They're linking it to things that are in ancient times too. Again, the as above, so below philosophy, but through time and history. They're attempting to use actual magic to perpetuate a lie. and people are believing this. The real firmament is something you can't see right now. Yes, it is the sky. In some constructs and contexts, it is the sky going into space between the firmament between heaven and earth, or earth and heaven. This was misworded. This means earth and space, but the firmament does also mean the dimensional barriers, the multiversal barriers, and also the Bifrost as well, and the nexus point to different planets and dimensions and frequencies. That also is that as well. But is the dome of the rock essentially, or the dome, the apex of going through the firmament? No, there is an access point to the inner earth there, but the beings there aren't necessarily ones you want to interact with. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, it seems like they've tried to fit that into a bunch of other narratives, because they also talk about on the edges of the flat Earth is the ice wall, which is, you know, you can't actually get past, and that is Antarctica, and that's why it's hidden, because ultimately they don't want you to see that there's an actual dome, and that's their belief. But a few things that looking at, you know, when you look at the moon as an example, and we only see one side of the moon, which brings up some questions maybe we'll ask in the after show around that, is, but you always see the same face. And if there was a flat Earth and you're inside this dome, how could you see one side of the moon always when one person is in this continent and the other person is in this continent? How would you see it the same? And so, you know, there's things like this that just go, okay, there's some ways just by, you know, common sense that should make most people go, okay, this theory is false. It can't actually.
Yes, this is where you are having the expectations. You see that everyone exhibits traits of common sense. This is something that is not taking place currently in everyone, which you all know. I'm avoiding saying stupid, but there it is. The moon in its geosynchronous orbit, yes, it is a spaceship and a space station. It is a hollow construct. Was there another moon in the skies at one time that was more natural? Yes, there was at one time. It was swapped out and replaced by one that would create a broader set of seasons and also earth tide shifts. This also ties into your earth shift. It is keeping certain things in place that some of the reptilians and such want in place, but it is also preventing the Earth from moving into even sometimes in some of the lower pole shifts or the slower ones. There's also it was also a spaceship that came from a different solar system that orbited Asgard for a while as an orbital weapon. It was hijacked. Then it then was used, and it is pointed at the Earth. The weapon itself, and the soul trap within, and the soul trap within, are no longer functional. But there, people are being made to believe that it is a gun being pointed right at your heads. Maybe that was true at one time, but the most it can do now is keep records, hold people on it like a space station, which some people are living there, such as your military Nazis and the like, Air Force, Navy, all of you. And then also it is assisting with some of the tides. But if the moon disappeared tomorrow, would it change a little bit here? Yes. Would the Earth survive in its 4 seasons now, since it is now locked into that and has been even previous to the moon? It had that as well. Yes, the Earth would be fine without it. This is also a misnomer that is actually being linked into the pole shift and flat Earth narratives.
Oh, wow.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. I think I want to be mindful of time. So I think we'll carry some of this conversation into the after show now. If there's any last words you want to bring through. Yes,
so this has actually been a fascinating conversation. I've had to hold back some of my, what would you say, crassness towards certain communities out there. This should hint a little bit of where I stand. Do I hold some of the same frustrations all three of you do at times? Yes, I absolutely do. But where I'm currently sitting, I can see some of these current events and current things that are going on. Now, in the time frame that I was Ragnar Lothbrok, the world, was it very different? Yes and no. There were narratives that were being played out, and there were not only rights to be won, civilizations to be saved or to hold, such as the one I was in, and also the narrative of the Orion, such as your church. And this is they are using some of the same tactics that they did then. Now, everyone, know your history and know yourselves. Know your own history inside and out. Know yourself inside and out. Know that you are an I am presence, not a swaying passage of pronouns. I will not utter the phrase. You are an I am. Yes, you've had multiple lifetimes. You've had multiple expressions within your oversoul. You are the current one in the current present moment, always and forever. So, in this current moment in time, you are here to not only witness history change, but you are also here to understand things about yourselves as well. I will end this on a positive note in that particular way. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. And thanks, Ragnar.
Yeah. He was starting to get interfered with a little bit. What happens is, when I start to lose my voice or something, they try to get at whoever is talking through me, and they know they can't quite get to them. So they try to interrupt the voice or interrupt the head or interrupt the sight or something like that. And that's what was happening when I was sounding like this a little bit. They were trying to stop him from talking about the flat earth thing mixed in with the matrix fallacy and all this other stuff. So they knew it had to all be coupled together in one chunk there. But we will continue these conversations over a period of time. We're also going to go into the after show here. So anybody watching this show, this is the YouTube edition of Galactic Interstellar Council. And the after show will be on the website, of course, galacticinterstellarcouncil.com. You can go there and view the after show in the GIC paid material. So thank you to Bjorn Ragnarson for being here with us today. And thank you all for watching this show. And close the circle, yes. I tend to forget that I see Ragnar doing this. It's a mix between hurry up and you're nuts. So that's where he's going with that. So I am hereby closing this circle of conversation at this moment in time and energetically as of this moment in time. Thank you, everybody, for watching this episode. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.